All in Sports Network. We love sports.
Hey guys, how's it going? Ben Peck here, All in Aggies. Immediate reaction to Texas taking down Texas A&M. You might be saying immediate reaction. This is kind of late. Well, listen. Did the game, did what I needed to do work-wise, and then, some of these times you just I went to a 24/7 breakfast restaurant because I just needed to be waited on. I just need companionship, a shoulder to cry on, metaphorically. So I did that, came back, laid on the bed, passed out with the lights on, and have woken up. And so it's still fresh to me. Texas wins 17-7, going to the SEC championship. A&M left out. A&M 8-4, man. 8-4 A&M. Really hurts to say that in a year like this, but it is the case. We're going to break it down and just go through some things off my mind. I'll just start with this. Brutal way to end the season, not just this game, the last 3 SEC games. And this game in particular with Texas, it was just beyond frustrating because what I said coming into this game were 2 things. I thought whichever defense was in a position to get the last stop at the end would prevail, whether that be Texas or A&M. We never quite got to the point where there was one drive down one possession, but it did feel like if A&M certainly needed to go down and get a touchdown to tie the game late or a field goal, I did not have confidence that was going to happen. But secondly, the way Texas had been trending coming into this game, I thought there was an opening, and there should have been. Now, I know Texas fans will say, hey, we didn't play nearly as well as we could have and should have, and that game should not have been that close. And that's not incorrect. But the offense for them is mistake-prone enough to keep you in these games. And, Quinn Ewers did the thing. I was watching the Kentucky game, and he went through that little lapse in the second half, I think it was. And I said, that Quinn Ewers is not beating Texas A&M. And that Quinn Ewers showed up in the second half with the pick, the fumble near the goal line, missing some throws early. But A&M not able to capitalize at all. 0 offensive points. And a lot of questions to be asked on that side of the ball. Before we get to that, first of all, thank you for being here. If you enjoy this content, be sure to subscribe, help us out. We've got a lot more coming the rest of the year. But I want to take you to this play. This was second drive of the game for Texas. By the way, this was the play of the game where Kelvin Banks went out and A&M seemingly unable to capitalize really off of that. This I thought changed the game. This was third down. Quinn Ewers on that bad ankle slips that tackle and is gone, and then stays in bounds, goes out of bounds near midfield. If Quinn Ewers goes down there, here, I won't play it again. If he gets tackled here, you're talking about the defense not only pitching a shutout, but like a no-hitter. They had driven the ball, gotten stuffed on fourth down. Then you force a 3-and-out, you get the ball back. You throw a pick going into Texas territory. You have a chance to get another 3-and-out. And Quinn Ewers, it's not, and I'm not trying to pick on Rylan Kennedy there who missed the tackle, but I'm just saying that kind of epitomized the opportunity Texas A&M had where Quinn Ewers, if you watch, he was clearly limited mobility-wise. There were some places he'd rolled out and he decided he was going to make up his mind, and you could see him just grimacing as he made his way down the field and tried to pick up yards with his legs, and A&M, couldn't get there. Now, those plays notwithstanding, my point is if you were able to get in the backfield and make him bounce around the pocket there and keep him in the pocket and collapse it on him, that was there for the taking. And we thought it might be, but not able to generate enough pressure throughout the night when it mattered on the big plays. And then, by the way, that drive leads to their opening touchdown, and then A&M later gives up the touchdown on the next drive where an 80-yard drive and Jaden Blue making a heck of a catch in the back of the end zone, taps his toes, just barely in bounds. I thought they might say the call stands, but I still think Texas could likely find a way to score on that drive. So I don't think that call in particular was like the make or break. But yeah, that play with Quinn getting out, it was not like the decisive play. Like it was still 0-0, but it sort of was the encapsulation of a missed opportunity that was there for A&M. Chances like that, and you can't capitalize. And that is what keeps you from Atlanta. That is what sends them to Atlanta. That is what decides the game, really. I think too, the thing for me, I was thinking about this as it was happening. Just a bizarre game, by the way, in general. It felt like early on when A&M was doing that, and like I said, forced the 3 and out, was that close to forcing another 3 and out. I felt like almost a boxing match where you see someone come out, they have a flurry, and the question that you don't know is what they have in the tank. So A&M comes out, I wouldn't quite call it haymakers, but they come out. They have a drive on offense, establish some ball movement, get down the field. You stall out on 4th down. Okay. And then you get a 3 and out. And then again, you start to move the ball again. You slip up, a mistake, a pick. Okay. Now you're about to force potentially another 3 and out. The thing I didn't know and couldn't tell, and I thought this was going to be the deciding factor in the game, is like a boxing match. Is this one of those situations where they're sizing up Texas and they're building up for like the knockout blow? Or is this them coming out early, playing really well, boom, 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 but you can't quite land the big punch? You're getting your energy. And then by the time you look up after not just that run, and you know, I think they had another 4th down conversion. Well, they did. I think the Arch Manning was a 4th down play, if I'm not mistaken. You had another one. You had the deep ball over the top on the next touchdown drive that was pretty well covered, just a good catch. You had other plays like that throughout the night. Like I said, you got Jaden Blue barely keeping his foot in bounds. And it's like, I didn't think in that point A&M was actually playing that poorly. Just some missed opportunities, some missed mistakes. I actually thought they were playing decently well. But then you look up and you're like, it's 14-0. And if that was our flurry, if that is us at our high point, if you're A&M, then, you know, I'm not sure what you can expect the rest of the way going forward. So that's just one of those things that was tough to see. I'm not saying A&M literally didn't have any energy the rest of the way, but I'm just saying it felt like one of those, like, Texas would be able to withstand the punch from A&M, and A&M did not have a second surge, a second counter to answer back. And then in the second half, they did on the 2 plays. The 3 plays, the fumble too from Quinn where he was sliding, you know, at the 10-yard line, he fumbled away. But I think that was more a mistake on Quinn's part. I mean, it was really 3 splash plays. The pick 6 from Will Lee, the punt block from Ja'Day Walker, so special teams, and sort of a bad break there that Dalton Brooks apparently slipped. Not that he was trying to go down to get the ball, but he slipped instead of keep his feet and, you know, scoop and score that for a touchdown, and you give the ball back down a field goal. I mean, I think that's a different game right there. I'm not trying to beat up on Dalton Brooks. Again, apparently slipped. It was not like a thing where he consciously dove, according to Mike Elko. But so in a weird way, and Mike Elko said this when I asked him about it, I actually felt like they were playing better in the first half, or the early first half, than they were at all at any point the rest of the game, especially in the second half. But you get credit on the scoreboard for the inverse of that. So that was just bizarre. And then we got to get to this. I did not love this answer. So many times, 3rd and short, 4th and short, and I'm talking like one, less than one. And inside runs seem to be the way to go for A&M. I think less egregious on the 4th and goal call necessarily, but it was more so the fact that throughout the game, A&M never, especially when they had 2nd and 3rd down chances, knowing you would likely go for it, they never mixed it up. In terms of trying different ways to either keep Texas honest or do this and that. This is Mike Elko asked by Carter Carls about basically the decision to consistently not just go for it, but calling inside run plays, and that seemed to be the mindset. And if it just felt like it was eventually going to start working, you'll hear the question, but did not love this answer. We'll come talk about it.
When it hadn't been working all night, was that something you guys just had confidence would eventually work, or what
Yeah, I mean, obviously we called the play to think it would work. In hindsight, there were other things we probably should have considered. We didn't. Sorry, I don't have a great answer for you on that one, Carter.
Ooh, I'll be honest. I mean, like I told you, I didn't love that answer, but I kind of almost had Jimbo-y flashbacks there. Not to say Mike Elko's Jimbo Fisher, but I do think there's a balance between saying, hey, this play was there. We should have been able to execute it. It didn't not work because we're not good enough to. It didn't work because we need to be better and we need to be able to get a push. If that's your message as a coach, I get it. But there is sort of a fine line there of, okay, how do you balance something's not working and we just need to be, dare I say, able to execute versus, okay, for whatever reason, we're not able to execute this right now. We need to be able as a coaching staff to find different ways to do it. That was a little, I guess, that felt a little reminiscent of some answers Jimbo Fisher would give. I'm not necessarily blaming coach for not having. I guess here's my critique. It would have been one thing to say, well, I know these were all inside runs, but these were different things we were doing to try to at least change up the look or this and that, and why, we did think, even though it sort of was the same play call, like things were going to work out differently. Not really having a good answer, just say, yeah, we just kind of basically, as Carter said, which kind of thought eventually it's got to work eventually somehow, even though all indications are it's not working. I'm not sure how much I love that. Now, again, I'm not necessarily calling out the 4th and goal play specifically, because I do think if you sweep it to the outside and you get tackled, people say, whoa, why are we running outside? You're half a yard. You got to go right up the middle. So I get that. But again, it's more so they had multiple chances on 3rd down and 4th down to do maybe some of that stuff. I think they had 2nd and short on that first drive where they got stopped. So that was the frustrating part for me. I get you want to prevail, but that was it's a mindset thing, right? We're going to be able to adapt to change the game. And by the way, these slow starts, we didn't talk about this, they continue to doom A&M. I mean, 3 of the 4 games, really the Notre Dame game too, but it was more an extended slow start. But 3 of the 4 games, you go down, was it 17-0 against South Carolina, 21-0 against Auburn, 14-0 against Texas, 17-0 against Texas, rather. And that's just, your offense isn't good enough to be able to come back and do that. Another thing, the run, man, see, this is where, again, it was there for A&M had they put a better performance together. If Texas fans are watching this, I'm not saying A&M was the better team last night or that Texas didn't deserve to win. They were the better team. I'm just saying there was an opening had Texas A&M had a better performance that you could have seen a different outcome. I mean, literally, you get the 4th and goal conversion, even with how poorly A&M had played to that point, or how many missed opportunities there were to that point. You get that 4th and goal touchdown, down a field goal with whatever it was, 4 minutes left. I mean, up a field goal. We got a ball game at Kyle Field. The runs were huge for Texas to have the limited depth. See, and this is where I go. People were pointing out, no Le'Veon Moss, limited Reuben Owens, and woe is me. The running back depth killed A&M, which it kind of did. But as has well been documented, Texas has had a lot of running back injuries and bad luck this year in that regard. Yet, that was the difference in the game for them. They go for 240 yards, average of just under 5 yards per carry, and it just felt like time and time and time again. A&M needed one of these drives to start off with a, maybe not a loss, but just like Texas stuffed on first down. Then you can turn it up on second down and dare them to, throw it on third down and, make Quinn sit in the pocket with a longer developing route and get that pass rush home. But just so many times, at the end, when they needed, literally, they're going to run the ball, and they're able to do it. I mean, that's the most demoralizing feeling, I think, in all of sports. When you're playing a team that's holding on to a late lead and okay, they're not going to get too cute here. They're going to just run, the most predictable play calling you've ever seen, and you still can't stop it. That with their All-American guard out of the game, tackle, Kelvin Banks out of the game. So that was not good enough. Quinn, let's talk about Quinn Ewers a little bit. 218, 17 for 28, and a pick and a touchdown. That is not, that's what I'm saying. That, if that's all you're getting from Quinn Ewers, A&M should be able to, I'm not saying definitely win that game, but that's a game A&M can win. Okay, what I'm worried about, if you told me, hey, Quinn Ewers is going to go for 344 with 3 touchdowns and 70% completion and, no picks, and, you're going to have a 100-yard receiver, another 80-yard, like, that would have worried me. And that would have been like, okay, they're getting open down the field, which they made their fair share of deep plays. They're getting down the field. Secondary is not tackling well on the perimeter, and that is what I was concerned about coming into the game. But at least A&M is slowing down their run game and making Quinn beat them in a sense, or they're not letting what should be a depleted running back room for Texas be the thing that beats them, right? Like you're going to make them prove that not only their strength of the passing game can carry them, but that your strength, the pass rush, is going to be able to outdo what they're able to do down the field through the air. And again, you were in position to do that if you're A&M. But, 17 for 28, and they had a decent chunk of, 12.8 yards per completion. So, like some of those, I guess a lot of those were 50-50 balls or really close throws. I can think of 3 in particular where you had, I don't know if it was Golden down the left sideline early in the first half, I want to say, maybe second half. They had a deep throw to him that was tightly covered. They had the throw to Jaden Blue for the touchdown. Then they had the Gunnar Helm play, which I believe was a third down, which the ball goes right through Bryce Anderson's hands and goes to Gunnar Helm. And that's not only a first down, but a big gain, and it keeps the drive alive. Like, that was what I'm saying. There were so many times where A&M was there to make the play and just could not finish. And that's the part that is, I think, the most demoralizing. It would have been one thing to say A&M played a heck of a game. They brought their best, and Texas's best stuff, who they brought their best, was just a little bit better than A&M's last night. I think the frustrating thing for Aggies is it was not the best stuff from Texas. If you're a Texas fan, you're happy with that game. I get being happy with the result, but I think you need to reevaluate your confidence in this team. Like, sure, confidence that they can get the job done. I'm not saying that, but again, there are problems with that offense. They just were not fatal against A&M, and they didn't cost Texas in this game. But a better team, and maybe a better season with more better teams, a better team makes you pay for some of the mistakes Texas did, right? Like, oftentimes in the SEC, if you come in with that type of effort performance, not defensively, the defense for Texas is a separate thing, and we're going to get to that. But offensively, I'm saying for Texas, that like there were problems there that should have been exploited that weren't. Now let's talk about the defense for Texas and the offense for A&M. Look, I think, we talked about the run game not being there. Offensive line was a question mark coming into the year. A lot of new faces, new coaching staff. Could they elevate their game? Could they take over games and start to establish themselves as a dominant unit? I don't think we ever saw a game, this game included, where like the pass rush was abysmal, or the pass protection was abysmal, and people were teeing off on Marcel or Connor or making them run for their life. That never felt like that happened. But there was a portion of the year, and maybe this was just like recalibrating your expectations, but there was a portion of the year where A&M was starting to move it along, especially in the run game, so much that you thought, man, this is like the strength that they need to lean on with this team. But clearly, there's a threshold to that. And a team like Texas in the trenches on defense and offense, because we talked about that, there's a threshold in the trenches that Texas is at that Texas A&M is just not at right now. Now, that can change, but that offensive line performance in the run game was not good enough. And then in the pass game, see, this is the problem with it, is you have running back injuries. You're depleted there. I know Reuben Owens came back, and that was good to see, but you're depleted in the run game. You have your receivers were not getting open, and it wasn't just this game, it was the whole year. They were not getting open nearly enough. You need grade A receivers in this league, or you need grade A options at receiver in this league. I'm not saying A&M doesn't have guys who could be that. I'm not saying they have like bad guys at receiver, but they have a collection of receivers who are at a certain level, who are not at that next level, just like the offensive line. They have offensive linemen who are solid and good, but they do not have enough pieces on the O-line, probably Trey Zoom notwithstanding, who are just bona fide, solid operators to where you can put the game on them. And so when your offensive line is not creating a push and you can just lean on your run game, I don't think the receivers are good enough to beat Texas in that setting. I don't think the quarterback play is still up and down. Marcel Reed, I thought he played fine. And the other tricky thing is some of the best plays we've seen from Marcel Reed come from these like improvising, like literally scrambling, not just like quarterback running, but like, something's got to happen. I'm gonna, scramble around, make plays with my feet, and go crazy. And they're off schedule and they're dynamic, but you can't like predictably call those up. You can't, you can call up a design quarterback run or this and that, but you can't just like assume when you're going to be able to call a pass play. It's covered up and it's not there, and Marcel's going to have to buy some time, then make a move, then make a guy miss, and then pick up 23 yards. You can't like call that play. It just happens, which is one of the special things about Marcel Reed. But there's just a few, I think there were some growing pains that we saw here, I guess is what I'm trying to say. I think he will be a good quarterback. I think he is a solid quarterback. But right now, especially given the limitations at wide receiver, or the limited upside, I should say, he's just not there at the moment, which is okay. I mean, he's, redshirt freshman. That's fine for him. Like, he's got plenty of time to be very good. But I'll say that, I guess this is what I would say. And this isn't all on Marcel. This is the offense as a whole. The part I didn't like is that you're down 17-0. You get the ball back. And I'm thinking they're even down 14-0. Like, is A&M going to be able to – can I confidently say A&M is going to be able to move the ball down the field and score 21 points to have a chance to win this game? I never felt that way. I never really felt that way, if I'm being honest. I knew it was like mathematically possible, but I never was confident that, if you have to – let me put this caveat because this is important. With the caveat that you're down, time's going to be running down, and you're going to have to lean on Marcel, not just Marcel, but his arm and passing situations, and you're going to have to rely on that to kind of do that multiple drives where you're out of your plan A and your normal game plan of running the ball. You're not going to have that. Eventually, that's going to be very limited because you're going to have to pass your way back into this game because you're going to be running down on time. And even though it should be manageable, it does not feel like A&M is built to do that. Like Auburn, even they fell behind 21-0, but they fell behind 21-0 so early that there was still plenty of time to do that, and they did get big explosive plays. And to be fair, Texas defense is a lot better than Auburn's. So now they cause their own problems, but I'm not saying they're bad defense, but Texas is best in the league. But yeah, never really felt like A&M's offense was going to be able to consistently muster up these drives. This is what we were talking about earlier, by the way, in the year, is you need explosive plays, and this goes to the skill positions with the receivers and running backs and whatnot, but you need explosive plays to be able to alleviate some of the pressure for the offense to not have to grind their way down the field every single time. Because eventually, if you do that, we saw it in the first half. I mean, that was the problem. And in the second half, like, A&M was able to move the ball at times, but they always had to grind it out into, I got to see how long these drives were, but lengthy drives that eventually, the longer the drive goes, the more likely it is eventually you're going to slip up. 9 plays when they turn it over on downs. Oh, wait, hold on. Do I have this right? Yeah. 9 plays where you turn it over on downs. 3 plays you have the pick. 10-play drive where you punt it away. Later on, you turn it over on downs on 10 plays. I've forgotten about that one, to be honest. Late in the game, 9 plays. You have to punt it away. I mean, these are lengthy drives, and they're not like if you get a big explosive play that cuts down on the chance that something goes wrong along the way. Now, you can't be overly explosive or overly relying on explosive plays to where it's like boom or bust, and it's basically a 3 and out unless you hit the jackpot every time. There's a balance, and you want to be able to close out games and control the clock, control the time of possession. You want to be able to do that as well. So you need to. That's sort of the part about being balanced on offense, almost having a complementary offense where you can be the anaconda and squeeze the time out of the game and control the game like Texas was able to do on the last drive for them. But also, hey, if we need to be able to go down and score, multiple scores in a condensed time period, you need to be confident that you can do that. And I just don't know that passing game is there specifically. I think the run game had been there for most of the year, just wasn't there against this Texas defense. And that's something they're going to have to address going forward. I think I'm going to wrap it up there for now. We'll talk later about kind of season overview and big perspective things. I want to make that like it's separate video on its own. Keep this one to the game itself. But again, Texas, I mean, hats off to them. They win. They are going to the SEC championship game. Let me just end with this. And I think this is the part that's as brutal. On one hand, this will be a sneak peek of the year in review. On one hand, A&M, I think, had a solid year with stuff to build on. I think when you look at Mike Elko's first-year performance compared to most coaches' first-year performance, it was very well. I mean, you were in it till the end. And even had this been a 14 playoff format, you wouldn't maybe have been in the playoff conversation all the way till the final week, but you would have been in the SEC championship game conversation till the final week. Think LSU, what was it, 2 years ago with Brian Kelly before they lost to A&M. I know they were 2 losses, and they maybe, if they would have beat A&M, could have still had a path to win in Atlanta and make the college football playoff as a 2-loss SEC champ. But after losing to A&M, they still had building pieces to build with. They had Harold Perkins, Brian Kelly, okay, this might be working out pretty well. But no team, what has been magnified by that is no team in the SEC, or really in the country, Ohio State, as a prime example, no team has been just completely taking control of the SEC conference this year and really handled their business in a solid way, a consistent way. I think every team around the SEC had ups and they had downs and they had flaws, with the exception of Texas. And that's the part that killed you about losing that game and seeing Texas not only go on to the SEC championship game, but make the playoff, win or lose against Georgia, and kind of have that in their back pocket to say, listen, nobody else in the league is at the level we're at right now. And if you're a Texas kid, which again, obviously should be A&M's recruiting hotbed, if you want to play for the real dominant program, come to Austin. Don't go to A&M. That's a tier below Texas. That's the part that kills you. If you made Texas, Georgia, I don't know, 10-2, I think ultimately for Georgia. Let's say Texas had the year Ole Miss had, 9-3, A&M's 8-4, and maybe Georgia was the Texas of this year. They go 11-1. then you say, okay, there's Georgia, but they're kind of out there in their own world. In our backyard, it's A&M and Texas and, LSU, Oklahoma. And if you're around these parts and you want to stay close to home, we're just as competent and we're just as close as any of those guys, and we've shown just as much promise as any of them. That would be, in terms of like how A&M stacks up in the league as a whole, they wouldn't move at all. But within their region, within their neighbors, that would be one dynamic that's there. But the fact that the one team in the league, which has basically avoided any sort of disastrous performances, multiple, happens to be Texas, and they beat you to cap off their run to the. That's what makes it hurt even more. It's just kind of luck of the draw in the sense that your potential breakthrough year went up against, a really good time for Texas. But it is what it is. That's where we're at right now. A&M still has plenty to work with and plenty. Again, good news is the rest of the league's diluted to where if you don't end up going Texas, I think the power dynamic is a lot more fragmented across the SEC. So, you still gotta knock Texas off the top of the hill, but I think everyone else in the league is not head and shoulders above anybody. I don't think anyone's head and shoulders above anybody. I don't even think Texas is completely head and shoulders above anybody, but they can sell that because they win 11-1. And we'll see. Maybe they get clocked by Georgia and they lose on the road or even at home against a, Big Ten team. And then, people at the end of the year say, Texas maybe not quite there yet. And then maybe you can kind of get into the conversation of, hey, we're not that far off from them. We're not that far off from anyone else. But right now, Texas, if they're the only team in the SEC that is handling their business at a consistent rate relatively, that's what makes it sting a little bit more. All right. Now that is going to do it for us on All In Aggies. Thanks so much for watching. And be sure I'll try to put up highlights a little bit later if I get the time. But thank you so much. Subscribe if you enjoy the channel. If you're a Texas fan, you watch this for some coping for Aggies. Appreciate it. If you would at least like the video, if we did at least entertain you. And if you're an Aggie, share this channel with a friend, share this video. We really want to build it up as we go through not just the rest of the season, but as we go through the off season. Winter and spring sports are around the corner. We saw how dominant that was for A&M. We want to really be at the forefront of all those sports. So be sure to give us a like, give us a subscription, and help us do the best job we can here, giving you the best access and insight we can to all the programs at Texas A&M. Ben Peck here on All In Aggies. Thanks so much.
All in Sports Network. We love sports.